I think it starts with winning. And I think for him with the Dallas Cowboys, when you talk about winning, it's winning that division. And Philly with Jalen Hurts is at the top, and Jalen Hurts is an MVP candidate as well. So for Dak Prescott, it goes beyond just the numbers. When you look at that, you're seeing, second, in these different categories. I think you need to have a storyline, I think, for Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, Mike McCarthy taking over the offense. I think that is a huge thing because we went into this season and we're like, Kellen Moore was really good as the Cowboys offensive coordinator. What is Mike McCarthy going to do differently? And now we've seen a different version of Dak that through these last 3 or 4 games since the bye week have been outstanding. Only 2 picks, I think 17 passing touchdowns he's had. So it's been very impressive as we see him go out there and they're continuing to roll on teams. I don't care who they're playing, good, bad, or indifferent. He is putting up the numbers and he is leading his team. When you look at his numbers and Jalen Hurts, who a lot of people believe is leading the MVP race, you see it right there. Dak has the better numbers, but it's more than just the numbers for Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. Coming up, they have some primetime games. It starts tonight with Seattle. Then the next thing you know, they'll be playing Philly. That'll be on Sunday Night Football. That'll be Collinsworth. That'll be Tariq on the call. We need to see some of those wow plays, those guys in the booth going absolutely nuts. Then it'll be a Saturday night against the Lions. That'll be ESPN. That'll be Buck and Aikman. Those guys have to be talking about Dak, and the way he's playing and the way he's leading this offense. I think the numbers are there. I just think he needs to have those moments in prime time where everybody's watching and just like, forget about the plays of the past. Forget about the QB scramble against the 49ers in the playoffs that fell short, or Ezekiel Elliott snapping the ball. Forget about those plays. Have those moments where it's a big touchdown late in the game to propel his team to victory.
This is really fun. You guys know I say it all the time. The recipe for the MVP. Massive stats. He has those. The big wins. And then the story. His story is that he'd be the first Cowboys quarterback ever, first Cowboys MVP since Emmett 30 years ago. The wins are interesting, and Jason showed the whole schedule. I think it's as simple as you need to beat Philadelphia. I think that is almost an MVP playoff game for his candidacy, and I'll tell you why. History. This is very interesting. I find myself wondering, when was the last time an MVP lost twice to a division rival? Like the same team that you're paid to beat. You were amazing, but you lost 2 times to those. It's happened 2 times. Wow, the first one was 50 years ago. Bring it up.
Is that right?
El Hugo, the juice for the Buffalo Bills, 1973. Lost twice to those Don Shula Dolphins. He ran for 2,000 yards that year. 2,000.
Okay.
That's why he got the MVP. Guys, he ran for 2,000 yards in 14 games. It's in 14 games. So he lost twice, but he did something sensational that's never been done again in 14 games. That's how he got the MVP. Next, Steve McNair lost twice to the Colts. Now this one's fascinating too because guess who is the co-MVP? It was Peyton Manning. Co-MVPs is something that is not done in the NBA. It's not done in baseball, but it's happened twice in the last 30 years in our NFL. Barry shared one with Favre once. So think about this. The only times, let's say Dak loses to Philly, and twice to his sworn rival in the same division twice, the only time that player's ever won MVP is going for 2,000 yards in 14 games or having to split it with the quarterback that they lost 2 games to. The comparison of that would be Dak and Jalen splitting it this year, at which point if you're Jalen, you're like, I beat him twice.
Yeah.
But now hold on, it's still hypothetical because Dak has a lot of experience beating the Eagles and he could beat them this year. I think it comes down to this. I think you have to beat Philadelphia to really have that moment, to put it over the edge. Jalen is too good. I don't think they'll do the co-MVPs again. And it's also extremely rare to have a quarterback that did not win their division win the MVP. Last time, 2008, way back then. It's just history is against Dak losing to Philly and winning the MVP. I think it's a playoff game in that sense, Peter.
I think that's an amazing analysis of history and how it looks. And I look to recent history, and it's like, can he overcome a loss to the Arizona Cardinals and a team that's 2-10? Can he overcome a loss on national TV to the 49ers where they lost 42-10? Those things matter too. It's the season award. And to your point, if you rattle off these victories in primetime and it's the freshest thing and it's the story, well then, we could kind of put those in the back. But I think he would have to, in that case, have the Dallas Cowboys as NFC East champions. Like, I don't know if you can lose. Yes, being swept by the Eagles would be one thing. But the Eagles could still lose a couple more games. And I think he has to win the NFC East. And then I'll go back to something you said. I think in our heads we think of the NFL and we think of the Cowboys star and the logo. Only one time in the history of the NFL that the Dallas Cowboys have had an MVP.
There's a running back.
And it was a running back who had, like OJ had with Buffalo, a historic season. Emmett's the only player in a Cowboys jersey to ever win MVP. So if you're putting Dak in that conversation, are you also going up and saying, there's a lot more to this than just who's the best player this year? You're also like, he's a Dallas Cowboys MVP. And he plays quarterback for America's
That's the
team.
story.
That means you're the greatest player in the league this year. The face of the league. Dak is the story. The only thing really helping Dak in the outside is that, like, no one else has seized the award. So it is there for the taking. I'm going to say it's very possible for Dak Prescott to win the MVP award. He's got to do all the things we said. He's got to beat Philly. He's got to run the table a little bit. He's got to have big primetime games. The stats have to be incredible. He's got to be so good that we forget about watching him lose to Josh Dobbs and the Cardinals earlier in the season.
And the Eagles have also only ever had one MVP in their team's history. Back in 1960, Norm Van Brocklin did it. So, like, Jalen's also, I think, chasing some definitive MVP history. There are other names to consider when you look at the MVP, but let's take a look at the NFC and how the Cowboys are trying to make the playoff picture more interesting as we head into Week 13.
Good-looking graphic.
It is.
like
That's
it.
beautiful. Look at that, alive up in
Look
the
at the
corner.
Bears are up there. Why
Okay. The Cowboys, as we mentioned, they sit at 8-3, and you have to consider, as Peter said, one of those losses coming to a Cardinals team. Top seed still within reach, though, but they're going to need some help. We're in agreement. Dak needs to win games to get the MVP, but there's no style points attached to the wins. It's just a win's a win, and the Eagles are coming up next week. What about this game tonight? It's Dak against the Seahawks. Jason, how do you avoid looking ahead to the Eagles and having that be, the playoff game for a lot of different reasons? Like, take us inside the locker room how this feels right now.
You try to stay in the moment, and that's what you say in the media. But it is tough because it's Philly, and that's the showdown. It's prime time. But I think for them, it's just staying, well, I'm going to say, repeat it, staying in the moment. We talked about Dak Prescott chasing an MVP. There's so many other things amidst it that you're trying to do. We just watched Deron Bland create history with another pick six. You don't want to overlook it. We've talked about him for Defensive Player of the Year. He wants to go out there and continue to string games together to keep his name in that as well. So for them, you're looking at a Seattle team that they're saying, you know what? Seattle's coming in here desperate. You just said it, Shreyas. They're coming off 2 straight losses. They want to keep their playoff hopes alive. They're going to give Dallas their absolute best shot. So for the Cowboys, that's what you're focused on. McCarthy's coming in, and he's harping that to his team. We've been in desperate times before. We know what that feels like. No matter what aspect you're in your life, Seattle is at that point. Banged up quarterback, lost 2 straight. We're trying to somehow salvage this season, so they're going to come in ready to go.
Yeah, I look at this Seattle team, and you think about they had their last week was on national TV against the 49ers, and they just come off that Rams loss, and they're at home, and there's no reason to believe that team that we saw on Thursday night against the 49ers is going to come out and shock the Cowboys, and yet it's the NFL. Things happen week to week. This is their desperate moment. Right now, if they win this game, they're still very much in the playoff race. I'm watching Green Bay and the Rams, who are getting red hot at the right times, and look at Seattle just falling apart and walking away. Pete Carroll's an all-time coach. This might have to be one where the coach gets the team to believe they can actually do this thing.
We're not expecting maybe a Seattle skyrocketing. What about the Dallas letdown? Like, Dallas will have a tendency here and there to, like, oh, come on, we were just buying in. Like I said yesterday, we got burned by the pizza. You lost at home on the Thursday night before the big game. Listen, Seattle is not scoring any points. Like, those 3 out of 4 last losses, 13 points, 16 points, and 3 points. Like, they miss Walker a lot. Like, their whole identity early was Walker and then a little Charbonnet, and then Geno makes a few plays. Like, they had a whole thing going, kind of like the Falcons. Like, they want to run the ball, and they got a bunch of running backs. I don't know if they're going to score the points. Listen, I'd hope for a tight game. It would be crazy if Seattle flipped the table and beat Dallas. It would be really nice if Dallas could finish this thing and just set us up for that prime matchup. But you think Pete Carroll gives a bleep about any of that? Like, he's going to go in there and win. He's done it before. He'll try to do it tonight.
He's beaten Mike McCarthy plenty of times.
Definitely.
Right.
We need, back in the Green Bay-Seattle days, they had great battles, but we just need points from Seattle tonight. I'd love a DK Metcalf game, anything. Like, we're ready for that. I don't know how. I think they need 27 points maybe to beat Dallas. They just haven't had it in a while. I don't know.
The Seahawks had one of the best defenses in October, and then November hit, and they were giving up, to your point, 27, 24. Even in a win against the Commanders, they gave up a ton of points. So the defense, I think, needs to click into. But, yeah, I don't not trust Pete Carroll from taking Mike McCarthy by his teeth and just dragging him into the mud on this one. Like, the Seahawks can win some dirty games, I think, if they have to.
No doubt about it.
Let's do